Hello, everyone out there in podcast land. It's me again, Rudrani Devi, your host for the Get Happy podcast. Let's do this. And I am so super excited today to have Miss Laura Simmonds as my guest. I love this lady so much. We met, I don't know, Laura, we met like 6 or 7 years ago.
Goodness. Yeah, we did. We did. It was a relationship class.
Oh my God. It was second relationship.
It was.
And we became fast friends. And I miss your sweet body because, you know, it's during these COVID times. And so we have to do these little boxes for those of you watching on YouTube. But Laura's also a certified facilitator of access consciousness. And, you know, you've heard us have these conversations each week. Laura, could you tell a little bit about yourself to the listeners, who you are, what you do, all the things?
Yeah, sure. So, so I'm a mum of 3 daughters, first and foremost. And I actually came to know about Access 7 years ago now, where I actually went to a Being You taster evening in London with Dr. Dane here. And I was so taken with, you know, what he was speaking to about, you know, what you know, follow your knowing. And, you know, I had done a lot of the typical spiritual, you know, things before and done all sorts of different modalities. And, you know, just hearing what he had to say and just sharing some of the tools really resonated with me. It kind of felt much more organic, much more what I knew was possible. So I immediately was like, I need to be doing this too. I want to be a certified facilitator. So I actually became a CF, certified facilitator, within just over a year of being at that first class.
Can I just acknowledge that for a moment? Because you guys don't realize there is a lot that goes into becoming an access consciousness
true story
certified facilitator.
Yeah.
And it took me years to finally commit to it. And you managed to do it in a year, which is kind of unheard of.
What I want to say to that is that, you know, I had 3 smallish girls at the time, and, you know, I hadn't really traveled, but that was a big ask. You know, I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to meet amazing people and, you know, do all sorts of wonderful creations with them. And then this showed up, and it was like, well, you know, I went to this evening taster, and then I chose to do an Access Bars class. So, and for me as a single mom, you know, that was for me, it felt like, wow, I'm spending a huge amount of money on just myself. I am not used to that. You know, usually my money gets shared with all of us, right?
Right.
So there was that point of view that I had to get over. But, you know, I did the bars class, and it was like, it dynamically changed that initial point of view. And it was like, no, I need to do something more here. So I then went to the first foundation class. It was actually called level 2 and 3 back then. It's a 4-day class, and with an Access Consciousness certified facilitator. So I went to those 4 days, and, you know, it's got this beautiful manual, and, you know, we go through it, and it basically is the foundation. It goes through, it's like the toolbox to change every part of your life. And I went away from that feeling such a different energy to what I showed up and turned up to that class with. And it's just created and changed, and just my whole life has just gone since then.
Yeah, I've heard this story before. So none of you guys out there wanting something different, look into it.
It happens to a lot of people for sure who choose to do these classes, and, you know, they really are magic. And so, you know, so I went from a stay-at-home mom to suddenly, you know, traveling. I literally started traveling that year, and I went to all sorts of different classes, met some amazing people, and then I very soon started to work for Access, and, you know, became a bars facilitator. I did, which is 3 bars classes you need to take. So, you know, it was every step of the way, I felt like I was being supported in order to take the next step, and to, you know, to do and create even more, you know, which is really amazing. So
I love it. And for those of you, I know that some of you have heard me talk about bars a lot.
Yeah.
For those of you that maybe don't know what that is, what we're talking about, it's not an acronym. 32 points on the head that when you touch them in different configurations, it's like hitting a delete button in a way. It gets rid of the thoughts, feelings, emotions that are kind of keeping you stuck. And it's like having the best massage. Well, this is what Gary Douglas says, the founder of Access Consciousness, the best massage you've ever had with your clothes on. And it is pretty amazing.
Totally. And I actually love to, I actually like to say that it's also like cleaning or deleting some of the saved files you have in your computer. You know, when you have a lot, your computer starts getting sluggish and slow. So when you go and delete those, it can free up space and starts to perform and work much better for you. And that's for me how every time I have my bars run, that feels like that.
Wow. I remember the first time I got my bars rung, I didn't know what she was doing to me. We were trading different modalities. She goes, I got this thing I can do on you. It's called bars. And then I fell asleep. And then I wake up and it's like, I couldn't believe an hour had gone by. But I felt so relaxed. My whole body felt rejuvenated, but relaxed at the same time. It was a strange thing, but I knew I wanted more. So for a whole year, I was trading with her like every other week. And I would do the same thing, Laura. I would just pass out. It took forever before I actually was awake during a bar session. And then
I know that feeling.
I can't imagine that much junk in there, knocking me out. But what ended up happening was she ended up moving, and I was like, I have got to find somebody else that does this bars thing. And then there was a class down the road, and it was as if the universe said, okay, now is the time for you to step in and check this out. And just like you, it was like, I took that class, and then I was ready for everything else. I took foundation, choice of possibilities, which I don't remember. It wasn't called that then. I don't remember now, from Gary Douglas. And then every body process class that was available, I had to be there.
Yeah.
And same thing. I had that same sort of weird, gosh, I sure am spending a lot of money on myself. Which can stop you guys, but what if that choice is actually going to create more, not just for you, but those in your life, like your three daughters, for example.
I actually discovered pretty quickly that, the things I wanted to choose, even if I didn't have the money for it, as soon as I chose to do it, the money starts showing up. And, that's such a different shift in perspective, because usually it's like, I don't have the money for that. I need to wait until the money shows up and then I can choose it. Right. But pretty quickly, when you do the tools of access, you learn, it shows you ask, if you want to do something, if you want to choose it, and then the money can show up to support your choice. Yeah. And that was one of the biggest things that changed for me, was that.
I love how you put that. I remember when I finally got that piece, I was listening to, I don't even remember who was talking. It might've been, I think it was Heather Nichols actually. And she was having a conversation with some other people that were looking to be certified facilitators, I think. Mm-hmm. And one of the people said, what do you mean by just choose?
Yeah.
And then I just was like, yeah, what do we mean by that? We don't even know we can choose, do we? And it was this thing where once you actually really do choose for you, it's as if the whole universe just falls all over itself to make it happen. That part you don't even have to think about. It's just, this knowing that if I choose this, what it's going to create. And the excitement of that is what seems to catapult, at least for me. I can remember when I wanted to be a CF and I thought, how in the world am I going to pull this off? It's in 3 weeks. I have all these other prerequisites I have to take before I can get there that I have to pay for. And then I also have to get on the plane. There's the place we're staying. And I thought, there's no way I can do this. And then the most remarkable thing happened. I was sharing with a group that I had taught a bars class. And then I had facilitated some body processes classes. And I shared with them what I wanted to do. And one of the days I came in, they said, okay, so we decided we want to take foundation from you and we're all going to go ahead and prepay for the class. And that's, I know, the look on your face, for those of you that are not watching on YouTube, but you're listening on Apple or Spotify, her face just froze for a minute. I was like, oh, did I lose? It was so incredible because I didn't know how the money was going to show up. I just remember texting Gary Douglas and saying, what would it take or what will it take for me to be there in 3 weeks for CF? And he responded, don't stop asking that question. So I was like facilitating myself, for like an hour, asking all these questions about how I could create it. And then that just showed up for me. And it certainly didn't show up in a way that I thought it would. It was like, okay.
Yeah. And I love what you said about choosing for you, because, the other thing is that we also can have a point of view that when we do that, it excludes other people in your life. But actually, when you really start to choose what works for you and what makes you happy, it includes everybody and is an inspiration for other people around you to choose that too. And I have found that the relationships that I have, that I'm close with, they have so dynamically got so much greater as a result of me taking those steps and choosing something different.
True story. And the relationships that maybe were holding you back suddenly disappear.
Yes. Oh yes, all that too.
pretty incredible. Yeah. So you were at a Being You Changing the World. That's what got you started. And
a Being You taster. It was in London. Gary had come over to do a level. It was a 2 and 3 choice of possibilities. It used to be a 2 and 3. So that's how I got started. And I'm actually now a Being You certified facilitator. So, we have this specialty in access, which, the certified facilitators can join and become part of, become a Being You certified facilitator, which really, it kind of is a greater invitation to be you in every area of your life. So it's kind of basically more of what we've just been talking about. And it really is, it's in every area, with your children, with your money, with your business, with your body, with your health, everything.
I love it. I'm a right voice for you facilitator.
Oh yes.
And I hadn't taken a Being You until during COVID, actually. I thought, I've never actually taken this class. I took it from Dr. Dane here. And I was amazed. It's kind of like a right voice for you class in a way, because it's about stepping into being all of you with no apology, and what if you being you is actually what the world has been waiting for.
Exactly.
And all this time we've been told not to be ourselves, to be this cookie cutter of whatever this reality tells us we're supposed to be. You're supposed to be the perfect mom with your 3 children. Yeah. This is how you're supposed to raise them and all the things. And then suddenly you find out, hey, you know what? Me being me for my kids is actually a bigger contribution to them. And it shows them that they can choose that for themselves as well.
True story. True story.
Are your kids involved in access, or are they just basically getting it by osmosis?
They get it by osmosis, as you said. As I said before, when you can be that, it has an effect on everyone around you. So they do the tools, but it's like in a very different and subtle way. So yeah, and they're making their choices.
And they know that they can make choices.
And they absolutely, yeah, which is great.
It's funny. I mentioned her earlier. Shout out to Heather Nichols. I remember her talking about the first time she went and took a class with Gary Douglas, and she had to bring her kids because they were really little and there was nothing else she could do. And she was asking Gary questions. She doesn't even remember exactly what she asked, but he said, "Can you acknowledge that you hate being a parent?" And she was mortified, because she said, here I am in this room and there's all these other people around. They don't know who I am. I mean, it's the first class I've taken with Gary, but they're all looking at me like, oh my gosh. And she said, and it felt light and I didn't know what to do. And she's like, what? And he repeats it. He goes, can you just acknowledge that you hate being a parent? And here's her sons right next to her. And she said, I do. Like that. But she goes, and it was the weirdest thing to actually acknowledge that, you know what, maybe I really don't like being a parent, at least not the way this reality says you have to be a parent. And she said, it gave me permission to be very different with them. And she goes, and from that point forward, I didn't talk to them like they were my kids. I talked to them like they were infinite beings, and I let them choose what they wanted to choose.
Yeah. And how often do we make ourselves wrong? Because in this reality, we're supposed to love being a parent, was, you know, and all of those things that we get projected on us. And really, do we want that? Do we actually really enjoy that? And if you can give yourself permission to not like it, or not, or to hate it, then you can actually really enjoy it from a different space.
Yeah, speak to our listeners a little bit about that, because I know that you go through this on a personal level. Did you notice that your relationship with your kids changed after you learned some of the tools of that?
Oh, totally, yeah. And it's really that you know, when I learned that I was shown with the tools that I actually had choice, and if I had the willingness to be all of that, then it had that. I then had a different allowance for my choices, and for, you know, I could wake up in the morning and be cranky with my kids, and it was okay. You know, I could wake up in the morning and choose to actually really enjoy them, and there was no charge on whether I actually enjoyed them or didn't enjoy it, or it didn't enjoy them. I was just able to be with them in a totally different space.
And you didn't have to make yourself wrong or right about it. That's
exactly.
The beauty.
And this is you know, this is really what it boils down to. It's just being allowed to be in each moment without having to apologize for that space of being that you choose to be in.
Right. Okay, kids, I'm a little cranky pants this morning. Doesn't mean I don't love you.
Exactly. Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
Boy, they are some lucky kids to choose you. That's for sure. So, what are some of the tools that because I know for me, one of the very first tools that got me was interesting point of view, because I didn't realize how much I made my life significant.
Oh, totally.
You know, so, and for those who don't know, interesting point of view is a way to kind of get yourself out of the equation.
Yeah.
So that you can see things for what they are, you know. Interesting point of view, I have that point of view. Interesting point of view, they have that point of view about my point of view.
And actually, that's an interesting, that was one of the first tools that I picked up on too, because when I did my first foundation class, it was the Easter weekend, and I was going to be driving immediately from there to my parents.
Oh, wow.
And I remember having this sense of, I'm in this space and I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to be around anyone, you know. And, you know, and we talk about interesting point of view in the foundation, you know, in the foundation. And it really gave me the sense that actually it was okay for them to be what they needed me to be. And if I had the willingness to not react to that, if I could not react to what they required, I could then choose to be that in a different way if I wanted to.
Kind of like you're in on the story.
Yeah. And so that even changed, which was amazing. But actually one of the tools that really gets me excited and my body excited is really very simple. Actually, it's just getting my body moving and going out into nature, and really starting to be present with everything that you notice, which and see around you. Oh, easy for me to say.
I'm like the energy of it. Sometimes it's hard to put
I know
words, but that's kind of my thing is nature.
Yeah.
So every morning I commune with Mother Earth, you know, regardless of if it's snowing or if it's hot or whatever it is. I go outside and I spend a few minutes communing with Mother Earth and really being present. And I remember talking to Gary, poor Gary. He's so generous with me. I remember texting him once and going, weirdest thing happened. I was communing with Mother Earth and I couldn't perceive her. And then he was like, well, truth, are you actually communing? You've become her, you know? And a lot of times we can't perceive something
that you be. Exactly. Yeah. That's so true. And oh, wow. Yeah.
It was such an awareness for me to go, oh my gosh, I'm actually being it. Because my question to her every morning is, what energy, space, consciousness, choice, magic, miracles, mysteries, possibilities, SOPs, and ESBs can me and my body be so you can create you the way you would like to be created?
Oh, lovely. Yeah,
and
beautiful.
It's this exchange where I'm sending out that question and I can immediately feel her I say her, the whole planet. I can just, it almost feels like I've got this warm hug. But then there was that one time and I went, where did it go? And Gary had to say, well, that's the thing about being. When you're just being, there's nothing that's really required.
Yeah, so true.
And that's what being you is all about. I love that. I hope you have a class coming up soon that you can tell people about. Or maybe it's
I do have a foundation class coming up.
Oh.
which I just posted. It's beginning of October. I don't have the exact dates in my head.
No worries. We'll make sure it's available to you guys.
But I wanted to go back to what we were talking about in nature, because one of the huge blessings for me with this whole lockdown COVID thing is that actually it has given me time to, it gave me time to go out and explore. And I started doing these beautiful adventures and going out for I'd go on 10-kilometer hikes. Sometimes I'd run, some of the way, and other times I would just walk it. But I love taking photographs. So I would start to take I would ask for beautiful things to show up that I could take pictures of. And so I would take all these wonderful pictures, and, I started to get so much pleasure in posting them and sharing them with people. And, what I noticed that started to do for me too, is bringing me into a different space of presence with myself, with my body, with what I was choosing, and really noticing just everything around me, from the really smallest things that I would never have noticed. Like, I can be walking along the road and suddenly I will notice like the tiniest little ladybird on a leaf. It would be like it would like shine out at me like a big shiny object.
Hey, Laura, over here.
Yeah, take a picture of me. So I had so much pleasure in doing this, and I still do it, not as often with now that we're not locked down, but it sort of created such an inspiration for me to do this. And actually, one of the things that I just finished today, Dr. Dane here had posted a video on Instagram, YouTube, whatever. It was a year ago, where he talked about, taking notice and admiring the trees. And I had, on my walks around, I had noticed this beautiful tree that sat in this huge field. It was this lone tree, absolutely stunning, magnificent tree. And every time I walked past, I would go, wow, it's so magnificent. It really spoke to me. So what I started to do was to take a photo of that tree in exactly the same spot every 2 weeks. And I've done that for a whole year. And I put it together to make a time lapse of it. And
really,
and I've just posted it today. It's on my Instagram and also my Facebook, so you can find it there.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, and it's given me so many awarenesses of the gift that we can be to not just trees, but to nature, to plants, to the animals, just by being present with them and acknowledging them, and what that can, change for their future as well as ours. It's, it's been a really huge gift for me. So I'm really, really delighted to be able to tell you about it today.
Oh, I love it. I can perceive your excitement too. It takes me where I go with nature. I have in the front of my home, I have this it's like this little closed in area that there's a tree growing out of, and I have bird feeders and little trinkets and things that catch light and all that. And the other day I went outside and with my coffee and sat at the table facing the feeders. And right now we have a lot of hummingbirds. And I didn't know, first of all, they're kind of mean. They're very territorial. But I didn't know that they had a language. And there were like 3 different kinds of hummingbirds. I mean, I don't know how long I was sitting there, but I just sat really still and they all started showing up. And if they were different, they would kind of talk to each other like, hey, I'm over here now. You're not supposed to be here, And so and it was like they were taking turns.
Yeah.
And I'm watching them do this dance. And there were a couple of them that just kept flying away together and coming back together. And I thought, well, are they a couple or what's going on here? Things that I would have never really noticed. I mean, like you, I traveled a lot. I've not been home this much ever. Ever. So I wouldn't have noticed those things. In fact, I would put the bird feeder out and then forget about it because I would be on another, part of the planet. And then I'd come back and, oh, the bird feeders need to be filled again. But I wasn't really paying attention. So what I ended up doing.
But who does, who actually stops to really take in the beautiful, the awareness and just the whispers of everything that's around you.
True story. This is what ended up happening because of these hummingbirds. I planted all these things that attract hummingbirds now. So I've got all this growth on the fence with these little, I don't even know what the plant is called, but it's got a little bell neck where they can stick their little, and they have tongues. Now I've looked up all this stuff about hummingbirds. I can probably tell you a lot of things. There's a gazillion species. They have split tongues that they can lap up the nectar and pull it in. And they are very territorial. They are very, so.
Well, it's really fascinating when you see something like that. And then you can, you learn so much, right? And it shows you.
It's a whole nother world.
Oh, totally. Yeah. It's wonderful.
That's
how I get my happy on.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. In my head, I was like, "Oh, Laura, tell us how you get your happy on." And then here you are, pulling it because we're not psychic at all.
No,
can't possibly.
We may be totally the opposite ends of the earth right now. So
right, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, y'all.
And I'm in the UK.
So there you go. But it's like no time has actually passed when I talk to you.
Goodness. Yeah,
it's the
and
same
actually that's the other thing I notice as well when we're not able to physically be together, but we have this space where we're very lucky with technology, we can get together on these Zooms, but it kind of just when there have been times where there have been several of us on on one of these Zooms and we're all from different parts of the world. It's like, how incredible is that? We're energetically all here in the same space, and yet we are all physically so far apart.
We share the same air. It's just in a different place.
Amazing.
It's funny because I remember when lockdown first happened, I had Simone had given us a challenge, Simone Millicis, and she had said, why can't you guys teach a foundation class every month? And I went, I'm going to teach a foundation class every month. And I would just put it out there to see who would show up. And the first time I did it, I had a woman in Hungary. I had a woman in London, someone in India. And I kind of felt sorry because the hours for them were like all over the place. And it wasn't that they chose me per se. It was just they chose foundation. And there I had, like 10 people.
Well, I'm sure they didn't choose you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, Rudrani, you have nothing to do with their choice whatsoever.
Right, that's
a million other.
True. I know. I couldn't possibly be a contribution, right? No. But it was kind of fun. It was kind of fun. It is fun to see who's gonna show up in the same way with the Right Voice for You class, which to me it's like, now that I've done a Being You class, it's like being you on steroids in a way. I'm actually talking to another person who does Being You classes, facilitates. Veronica Parker. I don't know if you know her.
Yes, I do.
Lovely, lovely being. I just totally adore this lady. And we're talking about a creationship of putting those two classes together somehow, even if it's like
wonderful.
a one-day class, because I can see how they can both lend to each other.
So if you're listening to this, don't choose that.
That's right.
It might not change anything for you.
Be amazed. That's what's so beautiful. I'm sure you've seen it when you're facilitating that class and you see it when somebody actually gets it or steps into them fully and what that creates in their world. It's just, this is the reason why we're certified facilitators, y'all.
Well, the other thing is to remember, we have no idea how we be with, just by being us, how we actually, what that creates for other people. I often think, walking down the street and smiling at somebody, you might just smile at that one person who has felt really alone and hasn't felt a connection with anyone for ages. And just you connecting with them in just that small way with that smile can actually really change everything for them.
Changes.
And so we have no idea with what we do and be and say what the ripple effects are.
That's such a true story. And actually I can speak to that, where in one case I had no idea, but it was, it was early on during COVID, and I have a little bit of a following in India, and they wanted me to speak. They just told me anything you want, just you choose.
Yeah.
And so it was like a 90-minute call. Anything that was raised from the call went to Actions for Futures. And it was like 30 people maybe on the call. And later, about, I don't know, 8 to 10 months later, one of the people that was on that call took one of my one-day classes and said to me, "You're the reason why I became a certified facilitator." Because I thought, well, what else am I going to do? I can't go anywhere. You know, she'd been binge watching some of my stuff on YouTube, and, you know, we all pick our people, right? It's like, if I'm in a cranky pants mood, I'll start binge watching Dr. Dane, because he's got so much free stuff on YouTube. So you guys, please don't look him up. And the same with Simone. And it gets my happy on to do that. And I didn't realize that I was actually doing the same for others. You know, it's like when you said before, you know, certainly they're not going to choose you. Why would they choose you? You know, you don't even know. A throwaway line could be something that sparks somebody else to start making choices for themselves. And I guess that's one of the reasons why I love this Access Consciousness movement so much. We're in 179 countries. It's evidently speaking to people, you know?
Totally.
So I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, okay. So you've got this foundation class coming up. Is there anything else that you have in the future that we could invite the listeners to participate
Well,
in?
I am going to be posting. I haven't yet posted, but I will be posting a Being You Changing the World class, not changing the world, so Being You class, adventure class at some stage. And, you know, the other thing is, if anyone is listening and, you know, they would like to do a foundation, but they can't do the date that I'm choosing, then please do get in touch with me, because I'm also very willing to look at that and, you know, fit something in that might work for other people too.
Absolutely. I know that feeling. I have a foundation coming up, but it's a night class for people that work during the day, you know, even if they're working like this.
Yeah.
So it really and truly, you guys, reach out if there's something you're curious about. I mean, Laura is an awesome contribution. I'm sure you wouldn't enjoy her classes at all. So please don't reach out to her. So is there any other tools or any last minute kind of thing you want to share with our listeners?
Well, I think one of the other things that I, you know, love to do, but it's kind of probably part of a bigger conversation, is that, you know, one of my favorite tools is to destroy and uncreate me every day, so that I have no expectations of myself, but also, you know, one of the things I love to do is to create with my body. So I used to be quite a bit bigger when I was younger, and I lost a lot of weight, and then I had an eating disorder for some years. And I then, you know, I actually got out of that by developing a relationship with water, strangely enough.
I love this. Please speak more about this, because I do remember this conversation.
Yeah. So, well, I was at boarding school, and real quick, because I know we're running out of time, but you know, one of the things that I used to do, instead of going to the matron, because she was not a particularly nice person, but also I was very bulimic at boarding school. So I didn't want to go and see her, because I didn't want her to find out what was going on for me. So if I was not feeling great, feeling unwell, run down, what I would do is I'd get a glass of water, because it was easy and readily there. And also, we all know that our body is made up of 70% water. And I would, you know, hold it in my hand, and I would ask the water to change into whatever my body required in order to contribute to it getting better. And then I would just know that it would be that for it. And so I did that, and it kind of worked for me. It changed, you know, I would do that over and over again, to the point where I wouldn't necessarily have to ask. I would just know that when I was drinking it, it would be the contribution my body needed.
I love that.
And then after I left school, I started to do the same with food. So I started to ask food first of all, I would start ask what food, would contribute, and then I would ask it to contribute and be what I needed. So I kind of developed a relationship, a very unusual relationship with food and water, which got me out of the eating disorder that I had, and actually I started to create a creationship with my body, where I started to I kind of developed a trust in my body, if that makes sense.
No, I love that.
And knowing that my body had my back. And it's just developed over the years. So going back to the tool that you asked me for, this is one of the tools I love, is destroying and uncreating your body image, what you think you look like every day. When I wake up every morning, I look in the mirror and I have no clue what I'm going to look like. And sometimes I like what I see and sometimes I don't. But it's like, if I'm destroying my relationship with my body every day, I never have to make that it never has to be stuck in that place. So I can always be grateful for what it is and go, oh, okay, so today my body's not looking so great. That's okay. Tomorrow it can be different.
Right.
I
love that. I actually have taken a page from the book of Creationship with my body as well. Mm-hmm. My body's, I make a joke about it, actually. My body's the boss of me. It decides what I'm going to eat, what I'm going to do, if I'm going to take a walk today, if I'm going to get on my treadmill. It's a funny thing because my body gets excited being included, and I can perceive it. It's like when somebody talks about a movie and my body goes, oh yeah, we want to see that, and then I know immediately, okay, Celeste, that's my mom, who I moved in with me, so we're going to watch the Disney Channel tonight. We're going to watch the Cinderella's getting ready to come on. I mean, they did a new version of it.
I've just seen it.
Oh, is it beautiful?
Oh my God, I saw it last night. Yes, I love it. It is the funniest adaptation. And it's a humanoid adaptation, actually. And I was like, wow, this is fun. It's really, lighthearted.
I heard it was like such a feel-good movie. And
it's great. I really recommend it.
Last night was her night. She got to pick what we were watching. So it was like America's Got Talent and something else. And then, but I told her tonight,
tonight
we're watching.
Yes, go for it.
And the thing is, my body chose it. It was like, we saw the commercial on TV and my body went, I want to go to that. And I'm like, okay, we're going to, so you guys, if anything, if you could take away from this conversation, it's that whole piece about being willing to listen to your body, because your body's actually quite brilliant. It's more aware than even you are.
Well, it's, as you said, it's including it with everything that you're choosing. And, when I go for a walk, I'm not just going for a walk, I'm actually taking my body with me, you know, and allowing my body to enjoy the experience as well. So, yeah, I love it.
Yeah. How many of us just drag our bodies along, the ride? Totally. And then you're like, the end of the day has come and you just throw it into bed. And then in the morning, oh yeah, of course I brush my teeth and do the things. But how many times have we actually said, hey, body, what would you like to do? So I don't know. That's my invitation to you guys. Maybe, for a whole day, ask your body what would excite you. What could you, allowing your body to choose, create for you in your body? And maybe talk to your water.
Yay! I love that.
Water, could you just be whatever's required for me?
Yes.
For this body? I love it. I could talk to you forever. I can't wait till I can hug your juicy body again. One day we're going to be able to not do these squares.
I know.
And all the things.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. It's been so fun talking to you too.
Absolutely. And you guys, I'm going to have all the information to where you can find Laura underneath. And if you liked this conversation, easy for me to say, if you liked this conversation, hit the like button, maybe share it with people that you can perceive this could be a contribution for. And so thank you again, Laura. I so appreciate you joining us today. And until next time, you guys, stay happy, get happy, whatever it takes. And ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Bye.